First of all, thanks for hanging in there. I know it's the last day of the show. A lot of folks have already left, so I appreciate you guys all being here. And ladies, there's nothing worse than talking to an empty room, so thank you for avoiding that with me. My name is Mike Waterman. I'm with ACV Auctions. I'm the Chief Sales Officer there. I know some of you in the room, so it's nice to see some familiar faces, but for those of you I've never met, nice to meet you. Here to talk about kind of what we've been doing, which has been a part of the industry now, whether you've known it or not, for about 5 years, when this kind of transition started to happen from, the traditional brick and mortar type of sales into this whole nother realm of digital platforms that are, trying to expand markets and give you more options, right? Which is a good thing. And probably one of the best things that's coming of it is kind of the pressure that it's putting on the space. Right? How many of you have used CRMs, right? You got DMSs, all of that technology, right, over the years, inventory management systems, the V-Autos, the red bumpers, the inventory pluses, all those things out there that, back in 2000, 2001, my first startup, DealerWire, was an inventory management system. That's what we set out to do, was basically take a lot of that confusing information and data that was in the DMS and a lot of times wasn't manageable because it wasn't built for inventory management. It was built for accounting. It was built for service. And use that to build, another part of our industry, another silo. So the technology, and for many years it started there, right? In the real basics of kind of the brain center of the dealerships, expanded into, how many of you use digital retailing now? Websites, all of that. I remember the first website. I was running a dealer group. And it took me almost 3 months to talk my dealer into spending $18,000. We spent $18,000 on our first website because it was brand new, right? But his whole thing was, this will never last. People are not going to buy cars off of a website. It's a fad, right? And so everything that's kind of snowballed from a technology perspective, and now, finally, about 5 years ago, things started to turn. The attention started to turn. The focus started to turn. What part of the industry still needs that technology kind of evolution, right? To get caught up to everything that we've done on the retail side. Because you think about it, from a consumer perspective, on the retail side, they can buy a car, finance a car. They can do everything they need to do before they come into your store. Now they can have it delivered right to their front door and never visit a dealership, right? So you think about how that's all changing. How many have kids? Teenagers, millennials. Where do they live? That's the future, right? They're going to want to do everything here. I know my kids range in age from 23 to 30. They do everything on their phone. They watch TV. They're banking. That's usually when they find out, hey, Dad, can I borrow some money? Because they'll be checking their account balance. They do everything in real time on the fly. They don't sit much, right? Unless they're texting. They need to sit to text. They can be in the same room, they'll text with each other, right? But that's where this thing's going, right? So it's not, a bunch of us didn't sit around and say, hey, we got to change this because it's not working. Everything we've always done in this industry, right? We cater to the consumer, right? Wholesale, you're the consumer. So why shouldn't you be getting the same type of features and benefits that retail customers take advantage of every day, right? To be able to operate your businesses better, more efficient. How many of you are single? Just a sole, you do it all. Have a couple of people, have some part-time, right? What's the most valuable part of what you could get back is time, right? That's the most valuable thing you own, right? So all of these efficiencies and what we're trying to do just inside this industry is give you back more time. And do it in a way that's not going to be shortcutting, right? We don't want to give you back a bunch of time and then expose you to risks or loss. Right? You still need to buy cars, buy them right. Right? You still need to have access to see, feel, hear, all of it without being there, right? How do you do that virtually? And that's what this has started. And this wave that you're seeing, and if you think about the size of the industry and what's going on, when we started our journey, right? They were about almost 2 years in before I came aboard. I've been here almost 3 years. And I remember the first time walking into Buffalo, and we got some of the folks here that were here that first day that I met when I walked into Buffalo. And we were in a place called 43 North, which was an incubator, right? Anybody ever been in an incubator? Anybody ever seen that show Silicon Valley on HBO? Okay? I'm 0 for 2. That's fine. I've gone 0 for before. But so a couple things for me, which was really interesting. First of all, when I first set foot in ACV auctions, my very first day, I instantly became the oldest employee in the company. And that really made me feel good. But that kind of transition. But what was really interesting is looking out and seeing, this next generation coming up. That was really the driving force behind this technology. And getting the two sides to marry together, the old school, the new school, right? Where do we find the middle ground? How do we make it easy to understand, easy to use, and most importantly, minimize risk, right? Because we all hate change, right? What's the biggest fear in the car business? Change. I don't want to change systems because it hurts, right? Whether it's a DMS, whether you're pulling something out and putting something new in, it's a painful change, and we all hate it. Right? So what we've been trying to do in this side of the industry is make it easy. Right? The only way you're going to make it easy is you got to have access all the time, and you got to have the ability to trust what you're looking at. Right? So those two things, when you think about wholesale, the only reason I'm here, the only reason these people in the black ACV shirts are here, the only reason half the vendors in that room is there's not a lot of trust in this business, right? As dealers, and there's no offense to anyone, we just traditionally don't trust each other. Right? I had a lot of friends. I was in retail for many years. Ran a dealer group. I never swapped used cars back and forth with other dealers. Took them to the auction. I go buy my cars at the auction. I go sell them at the auction. Once in a while I do a new car swap because we did have some new car shingles. But even those were painful. And how many phone calls it took just to do one new car swap. Took way too much time, right? Way too much time. So when you start to look at where this thing is headed, the transition, right, this evolution, there's certain things that are very beneficial for all of you in this room. And the first one is the time, right? The second one is the reach, right? How many of you just used to or still do just go to your local auction? Or you visit some franchise dealers and you're fortunate enough, you buy some cars on the side, they wholesale some to you, right? But as you expand your business and you get, bigger, and as others come in, right? You have more competition than I do. There's 5 or 6 in my space. There's 20,000 of you guys, right? So cars are hard to find. So being able to expand your reach to get more cars from other places that you normally couldn't get to physically is a huge advantage. Now, the underlying huge importance there is the transparency and the trust of what am I looking at? Is it going to be the same when it arrives as what I'm seeing on this screen? So the condition reports and having someone out there to see it, touch it, feel it for you, right? That again is an unbiased third party. Am I going to look at a CR and trust the CR that the selling dealer did? Let's be honest. No, right? So it starts right there with a very basic premise that we need someone to go out and be those eyes and ears and look at every car for me. Present the car properly. So when you start to look at the digital marketplace and adding another spoke in the wheel, right? I'm not telling anybody here that you need to do this it's all or nothing. This is going to build. But let me just give you an idea how quickly it's building. Okay? First year, when we started, we were very excited. The first month, we did a couple hundred cars in a month. Then we did a couple thousand in a month. Now we're doing tens of thousands a month. Thousands a day. My phone starts to ring when we don't do at least 1,000 cars in a day. And I'm thinking, when did this happen? We used to celebrate it. Now it's becoming the norm. That's how that transition is going. And think about that. We're just one company. We're just one of the many startups in this whole process. Now you add in all the competition and think about the marketplace in general, how it's starting to transition. If we're doing tens of thousands, others are doing tens of thousands. So this year alone, you're going to see well over 1 million cars transition through and transact through these digital marketplaces. And we all are just getting started. So when you think about the transition, right, and you start to think about, well, what are the benefits for me? Well, going long, right? And let's look at those. Because that's the most important thing. And all of you, and I remember when I ran a small group, and we go, NADA and IADA always have great workshops on how to manage your business and what to look for in vendors and partners and products. And if it doesn't have a certain ROI, then it doesn't work, right? There has to be benefit. There has to be return on investment. And the biggest investment that we have is our time, right? So if I can get a huge return on investment on the biggest asset that I have, and many of you being single, working, doing it all, wearing all the hats, it becomes huge, right? And you look at that picture on the left. How many of you have a few cars that you need to sell every month, wholesale, or would like to get rid of or cash out, right? How much of that on the left is A-lane space? Everybody knows what A-lane is, right? That's where most of the big fleets and everything run their cars, right? You probably buy a few in those lanes, right? But what about you? What about the other dealers that don't have 200 cars a month to sell in wholesale? Might have 5. Might have 2. Right? And the thing is, if you have 2 or 5 or 10, those are 20 times more important to you. How many mistakes can you hide in 200 transactions? Right? You can afford to make a few mistakes. How many can you make in 2 or 5? If you're wrong half the time, how crippling can that be? When it's an overwhelming, it's the majority of the deals that you have to do. Right? So looking at how you're buying today, right? The CR qualities, all of those things that go into what's going to push you to the point where am I going to buy this car? Why am I going to buy this car? Right? The other side, where am I going to sell the car? If I have a wholesale transaction, I want to go where I have the biggest audience. If you're on the left side and you're in that back corner way up in the left, in the E of the F lane, running your 3 units or your 5 units at 2:30 in the afternoon, the auction started at 10, are you going to get a good market value for that car? You're not. Are you going to get yourself into a better lane? You're not. Not with that volume. There's not enough real estate. There's only one A lane in that picture. There's only so many units you can run. Right? So that doesn't mean yours should be less valued. Because for you, they're actually more important. You don't have the big numbers to hide behind or hide mistakes, right? Because we're all going to make them. I know we're all sitting here, and I can tell you, just like you, every car I bought, I stole. And every car I sold, I made all the money on. Right? That's our money. So you start to look at, excuse me, how that changes, right? And these are the things, when you look at a new product, a new process, right? What is that ROI? And when you really have to dig in and look at where can I implement these efficiencies that are going to make me more valuable. Number one, give me more time, right? Limit, and I'm not going to say eliminate, because anybody that makes that promise is lying to you, but minimize the exposure of a bad car, bad CR, bad buy, right? And then what are the things that you can do to benefit from having that access, right? Reach. Reach is huge, right? And I'll just give you an idea. On our platform, our average distance, think about this for a second. Back when I worked for Odessa for a few years, many years ago, right? Good company, good people. Still know a lot of people over there, good friends. And you think about, we would get excited if we could get our physical lanes to reach out and bring people in that are driving 2.5, 3 hours. And that always seemed to be it. That was like the maximum they're going to drive. Then we started with simulcast and these other things. Well, if we can't get them to come in, we'll try and go to them. But when 15% of your dealer consignment cars have a CR on them, you're not going to get many people to look at it online. I don't want to go in and look at a 2011 Silverado extended cab with 90K and see a stock photo of a new Silverado. I'm not going to buy that car. I'm not even going to bid on that car, right? So as we started to try and understand how could we expand that reach, we realized kind of limited. And we're looking at today almost 400 miles between seller and buyer. That's the average. So if you think about your market, right, and your buying market, going to those brick and mortar auctions, maybe buying a little bit off OVE or some others, being able, if you could put a pin in the map of where your dealership sits and draw a line of 400 miles and think about all the opportunities that would pop up within that 400 miles, and you don't have to leave your chair. You can be there for that phone call or that internet lead or that person that walks on the lawn. So again, the return on investment, time, access, limited exposure, right? Because let's be honest, how much time do you get to look in the lanes anymore? And what's really sad about that is it's nobody's fault. But there have been just, and I don't know if there's anybody up from the Northeast here in this room today, but a very good friend of mine I've known for years who's on the Linway, he actually sold it, Jim Lamb, has been indicted. The owner of the auction, because one of his drivers had an episode, heart attack, and some people got killed in the lane, which is just a tragedy. And yet, here's one of the, pillars of our auction community who, if you go into Lynn, Mass, you drive around the Little League fields and you see Jim Lamb Field. You see, like most of you, how many of you donate to local things in your community? Little Leagues, YMCAs, all of that, right? And that's one thing I don't think the general public really understands or appreciates, how much money the automotive industry gives to the local communities. I can tell you right now, where I live up in the Northeast, that local area, there wouldn't be softball leagues, little leagues. None of that would exist anymore because the rec departments, they got no money. And it's you and others that write those checks. And here we are, somebody that's been doing that for years, and he's going to get held up as an example over a tragedy. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was a tragedy. But what's going to happen and what we've already seen, how many of you have been to auctions seeing the Jersey barriers going up? Can't go out when you go out to preview in the backyard. There's no keys in the cars. You used to be able to go out and start them up, right? I get down there, like a lot of you, a couple hours before. I'd have my list all highlighted. I know the 80, 100 cars I'd want to look at because I needed to buy 10, right? That's the other thing. Again, time. Think about your time. What if the car could find you? Right? You know what you need. What if you could go in, answer a few questions, set some filters, and the cars will find you every day? And someone else will go spend that 20 to 25 minutes and take 50, 60 photos. Run an OBD2 scan on it. So if the check engine light's on, we'll tell you what the codes are. How great would that be? How many times have you bought a car with a check engine hoping it's the O2 and it's not? Right? Because that's a big difference. If it's an O2 sensor, no big deal. Anything else, it's usually a holy shit moment. But you take the shot thinking, I got a 50-50 chance. It's just O2 sensor, no big deal. Right? Limit that exposure. Right? We're not going to, I'm not going to tell you we're going to make it go away completely, but if you had an OBD2 scan on every car and it was kicked and we could tell you, okay, it's a 337 code, blah, 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 you know what it is. You know what you're walking into. You know what that bid should be because you know what to expect when the car arrives. Right? It's not hard, but you need someone else to be doing that initial investment of the most important asset we have, which is our time. To do that 20 to 25 minutes on that car. And they're not associated to the car. The best phone calls I get, honest to God, is when I have a selling dealer call me up to complain because we're over-describing his cars. Because to me, that's not possible. That's not possible. We're not trying to hurt your car. We're trying to make the marketplace a place where everyone trusts it. And if we don't put everything in there about that car, we're not doing our job. So if it doesn't work for you, and we've parted ways with many sellers. And rightfully so, because We're going to keep doing it the way we do it, and that is every car gets held to the same standard, whether it's a $500 car or a $250,000 G-Wagon. And you should expect that, right? Because when you look at these things, right, easy to manage. For a seller, it's very easy to manage. How many of you sent cars to the auction? They didn't sell the first time. What do? Do you bring the car back? Yeah, most of the time you don't. Just leave it there for a week. I'll rerun it again next week, right? What are you going to get for numbers if you get 3 of them sitting down there? And Honda's running. Or Santander is running. Where are you going to run that day? About 2 in the afternoon? Right? So when you think about once you put that car in the truck, it's like putting handcuffs on it. Because it ain't coming back. You ain't going to bring it back. What's the most important thing that you have in that car? That's your cash, right? Cash is king. Cash flow is very important, right? Probably right up there with your time. Because if you don't get enough cash, it doesn't really matter how much time you have, right? So when you look at the easy to manage, now look at it from the buying perspective, right? How many cars could you look at in a day if they came to your phone? Number one, someone's already vetted that car. You decided, I would like to see that car. So when that car got launched, it's coming right to you. One swipe, you're in the auction. 50, 60 photos, OBD2 scan. Audio motor profile, so you can hear the engine. You can hear it at idle, hear it at rev. All those things that we used to be able to do when we go in the back lot and do our due diligence, right? So with all the things that have happened, to nobody's fault, right? Some bad things happened. A couple of tragedies now. You're going to see OSHA. You're going to see a lot of auctions that are doing what now? Physical auctions where you go and you stand in the lobby and you bid on screens, right? Well, you still had to go there, right? So your time, right, that big asset that we talked about, you haven't gotten any ROI on that. So when you can look at the easy to manage, which is both from the buy and sell, cars will find you, no handcuffs going on the ones you need to sell, right? You look at the reduced costs and the sales cycle. You don't have to wait to run once a week. You don't have to wait to buy once a week. You can be buying every day. Thousands of cars are getting run every day on these platforms. You could be buying every single day. And we see dealers all the time. When we started this, we didn't sell a single car on Saturdays. Saturdays have become a normal day. Memorial Day was a normal day. I had dealers sending me pictures of them on the golf course buying cars. On the boat buying cars. So that's what it's become. This is where you can do it all, right? Which that ROI gets pretty substantial. So we talked about the rider reach, the full condition reports. You know, you think about what you're able to do when you're in a hurry, right? And those of you, you guys are really busy. You get a lot of things going on. If you can get to the auction even an hour before, maybe walk around 5 or 10 or 15 cars, right? Because if you need 10, you probably got to look at 80 to 100, right? And hope that you'll be able to buy those 10 for what you thought would be a reasonable price, right? And a lot of times we get caught up, maybe we spend a little bit more. Hey, it's human nature. But now you look at, the reduced cost and sales cycle and the A lane, right? Think about that. Think about that for a moment. And just having that ability on both sides of the fence, buy or sell, and having access as a seller to that A lane kind of treatment and as a buyer to that A lane type of treatment. Every car has a CR. We're running, and I don't mind sharing some figures with you, but we run over 80% on our platform are green light. When's the last time you bought a 155,000-mile four-wheel drive pickup green light? From New York, right? But when we have somebody out there checking the fluids on the tranny case, driving it, making sure the four-wheel drive's engaging, taking photos of the undercarriage, taking photos 50, 60 all the way around, plugging in that OBD2 scan. Then you can look at it and say, okay, wait a minute. This is everything I would look at and it's green light. So there's huge advantages to the marketplace. I covered most of that. We'll keep going. So again, I would say if you're not, how many are you using some sort of digital platform now, at least bought a couple of cars? Okay? So you're going to see and I hope, you're going to see the advantages to do more. But all I'm saying here is get in now, right? Add the process. Put that other spoke in the wheel. If you're doing brick and mortar, it's great. If you got 2 or 3 auctions you've been going to for 20, 30 years, you got people in the lanes that you've been dealing with, you trust, you have certain sellers you buy from, all of that. I get it. Absolutely. But what I can tell you from a digital perspective, there's probably upwards of 100,000 cars this month that if you're not adding it to your process, you're not even seeing. And a lot of those you could buy in a green light transaction that you currently can't get today, right? So think about that. Think about the advantages of that. We talked about reach, right? I got a couple of slides here because I just wanted to show what we've been seeing, right? And this is very early on when we started just out of the state of New York, right? And what's really intriguing to us and what we found really interesting was the fact that almost half were going south. And I remember back in the day, being in the Northeast, we used to fly a couple guys down to Florida. We'd buy south, ship them north. Nobody ever bought north and shipped south. Why would I want the sand and the salt and, cars that have been in the snow? If I'm in, Texas, Carolinas, right? What am I going to tell somebody that came from the Northeast? They're going to go, well, I don't want this car. But when you can go in and you can look and see, look, this thing's got an undercarriage. This thing's in great shape. Talking about expanding that reach, right? Being able to get in front of inventory that you normally wouldn't be able to see or you normally wouldn't consider because you don't trust the condition, right? And now we're seeing, some of the largest groups buying from the north that I can tell you I've known for 20 plus years, and they always stopped South Jersey. They would not buy a car north of there. And we're seeing this already, which is really intriguing. But it goes to the whole idea of reach. And you're not going to get that reach. You look at the, when we started to go into the Carolinas, look at how they're heading west, too. Right? I mean, we have cars every day that get shipped over 2,000 miles. Think about that. Who in their right mind would ship a car 2,000 miles? You really had to find the right car. You probably got a buyer for it, right? If you're going to go that long, that's a retail deal you put together, and you need to get the car there, right? Because how many of you feel the pain of transport? Magnify that. Yeah, come and live in our shoes for a little while. There's not enough trucks. There's not enough drivers, right? So think about what a digital platform can do when we talk about the efficiency of our marketplace, right? If we can eliminate one move on every car, what does that do to the transportation cycle in our industry? We eliminate one move. In a lot of cases, that could be 50%, right? Does that free up more opportunity for cars that have already been purchased to get delivered in 2 days, 3 days, not 10 days, not 14 days, not, hey, where's my car? Right? We go through it. I tell you, we battle that every single day, and we are far from perfect. It's probably one of the most frustrating things that we have as a company is trying to find enough trucks and enough drivers to get the cars to you as fast as we possibly can. But what if we took one move out of the equation? How quickly the transportation, the squeeze that we're seeing right now, how quickly that would start to loosen up. Noose would start, there we go. That noose would start to loosen up immediately. Just one move, right? I get some other states there too. But that's what's really interesting. Very quickly, going from 4 or 5 territories in the state of New York to 125, California, Pacific Northwest. And what's really interesting about this is how different the markets are, but how everyone likes to buy a car the same way. I want a full CR. I want to be able to trust the CR. I want to get it here quickly. That doesn't change, whether you're in Texas, California, New York, Carolinas. That doesn't change. So if, from a digital standpoint, if we can provide everyone that consistent experience, make it a trusted experience, right? Save you a few bucks in the process. Remove one move out of the equation, whether, a car becomes a transaction, right? And do all of this for a little bit less money on the fee side. That's a win-win, right? So one of the things I'd like for you guys to take away, right? If you have been using a digital platform, ask for more. You can't do that until you put them under the microscope, right? And one of the things that I've been very fortunate to go out and spend some time with some of the dealer groups is how amazing they are at analyzing their data and how well they use that data to hold our feet to the fire, but also just bring their internal processes up to exceptional. And I don't know if you're doing it now, but I would ask you to do it. And whether or not you are using a digital, whatever vendor you're using, this could be used across the board, whether it's a CRM, a DMS, or a partner, right? Like a vendor, like a wholesale partner. But if you look at, where are they coming from? When's the last time you really dug those up? When you do a stock number, you bring a car into stock. And those of you that have bigger stores or multiple stores, do you have a way in your stock number so you're just looking at it, you know where that car came from? Do you monitor what auction I got it from? What's the average recon from that auction? What's my average keeper rate? What's the keeper rate? Well, I bought 10. 8 made it. 2 I put a bullet in and took them right back. Got rid of them. Right? Because if you're not batting at least 80%, 90%, then you might want to look for another venue. Because again, how much time did you invest to win those 10 cars? Probably had to look at 100, right? So when we start talking about valuable assets, how you can be more efficient, time again, there it is. It's going to come up in every one of these, right? So you start to look at what to track. Well, how much did it cost? What am I paying in fees? How long did it take to get the car? Right? Because if you have a vendor that is costing you $500 all in to get the car shipped and it's taken 7 or 8 days to get it, but yet there's another and you're only getting 70%, 30% you're not keeping because they're not making it through your shop, or you feel like it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, and you compare that to another silo that's maybe doing 90%, 9 out of 10 you're keeping, you're doing it for about $300, you get the car in 4 days. Because all of those things, time and money, right? What are you getting for the effort to go in and buy that many cars? Average turn, right? That's very interesting. And some of the things, and look, I didn't think of this. I've always been smart enough to know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so when I get a chance to go out and spend time with our partners, I steal as much as I can. I ain't going to lie. I see a great idea, I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. I'm going to steal that. I tell them. But I've been into, and JD Byright is a good example. They have a scorecard where they track right down to the recon. So they have every vendor, every month. They know where the cars come from, what the average cost is to acquire it, how quickly they get them, what they spend on recon compared to what they predicted to spend when they looked at the CRs or they walked around the car at a physical auction. And then they come up with this efficiency percentage. And they hold us all accountable to it. I think it's brilliant. And we've learned a lot. We've been able to take that information, which normally would be, hey, the you guys suck conversation, right? Because those happen in this business. and turn it into an opportunity to learn what we're doing wrong, or what we could be doing better to fit into these type of scenarios, which turned around, we did make some tweaks to our CRs that made us a lot more efficient. Because for us, the goals are very simple. Selling the cars, very easy for us. The most difficult parts that we have is everything after, right? Did it get shipped quickly? Did you get your title? The payment get processed? Did that transaction feel like, wow, that was easy? Bought the car, 3 days later, it's sitting on my lot, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. And it cost me about 30-35% less to get it. Because that's where this is headed. And I want you to think about something here, and I'm going to leave you with one more stat, and then we'll do some Q&A. We're looking at the average cost, or the average fees that are spent in lane, run between $600 and $700. That's a public company. They share their data. Manheim, everyone knows about what they generate for every car. And on the digital side, you're seeing that's about half. It's $300 to $350. There's going to be 20 million cars wholesaled this year. How much more efficient as an industry are we if we put $2.5 billion back into the ecosystem? $2.5 billion in fees could go back into the ecosystem using that math. And if you can get them quicker, and you can get them better described, more transparent, it's a win-win, right? So if you're not doing it today, come see the crew at the booth. We'll get you dialed in. If you are doing it, hold them accountable. Hold us accountable. Because the other part you're going to see, how many of you have been to auctions or been approached because there's someone like us in your market now, and you got lower fees now? You get free transportation. You're getting a 45-day free float. That's all good stuff, right? The more that come in, the more pressure that's put on everybody to perform better, better technology, better service, lower fees. It's a win-win, right? So, any questions? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Make sure your logins are all set up and you're using it next month. That's the best advice I can give you. Yeah. More to come. Oh, that's all right. Hey, I'd rather you heard nothing than bad things, so we're already ahead of the game. Yeah, back there. Yep. Great question. So we deal with over 40 floor plan providers, I think, today. So just like you do, if you don't use a floor plan, ACH normally, and usually on the title you receive once we receive payment, you'll get your gate pass to be able to go pick up the car. Title's not present. We usually do a 21. I think we're 21 days on our title that we put on our sellers on the title absent. Payment comes out when you buy the car, so you can go pick up the car. Yep. We do. Nope. So the seller gets paid when we get the title. So there's motivation there. Yeah. Good question though. Very similar process to the traditional. Look, there's a lot of things that we did really well with the brick and mortar auctions, and that's one of them. Yeah. So the seller doesn't get paid, but you can still buy it, go pick up the car, And I can tell you with 100% confidence that if there's an issue with the title, we unwind deals every month. Because it happens with title issues. So we have some things in place. 9 times out of 10, we can get the duplicate and get it delivered. In that one where we don't, we've had to unwind deals, and we've actually had to take care of some consumers. Yeah. Yep. It's painful. But I will tell you, I mean, our goal is that, at that point, it makes no difference for me or my team or our company to be the bad cop in that scenario, because we're not a retail company. So our first thing is we try to get in front of it for you and let us fall on the sword. We can be the bad cop. Yeah.
With your particular company, individual, guys talk about maybe Toyota Financial, some of these others, Honda, Nissan, and marketing. How are we going to know the companies there? Because you guys don't disclose who the seller is. Are these plans for you to disclose the seller?
Yes. You'll be able to, we're adding additional filters that you'll be able to leverage in coming next month in a new release.
So on every display, is it going to tell me who's selling the car?
On the commercial and the fleet side, you'll be able to know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as a new car store,
No. No. You know where it is. You know your transportation, your mileage. Yeah. Yep. Not at this moment. No. Nope. But I will tell you, good question. But again, 83% we run green light. And that green light we're standing behind because our inspectors, we inspect every car. You won't find a single car where we've allowed the seller to do the CR. It's just not part of our business model, quite frankly. And just to give you an idea, our arbitration rates are under 2%. So, I know what you're saying, but, it's really all about holding the car accountable. The sellers, we'll deal with that seller. If you've had issues with the way they describe the car, we're not allowing them to describe the car. We're doing it, right? And if they're a bad seller and we have issues with titles and things like that, then we'll kick them out. Yeah, we have. We absolutely have. Yep. Yeah, so we use 3 different avenues. Our first choice is our own. So inside the app, you'll get your transportation quote, and if you want us to handle the transportation, you just hit the button, and that gets the process started. We're doing 50% of our transactions ourselves. We have a transportation department in Buffalo. We have our own load board, and we're building that out. And then the others we use are the traditional: the Cars Arrive, Central Dispatch, Run Buggy, and some others. Yep. And right now we are, I believe, at 5.7 days is our average delivery. Yeah. That's down from 7.5. We're hoping to have it down to 4 by the end of the quarter. Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here today. I'm in Colorado, and I want to know how I can get my inventory on your site.
Come to the booth. We'll get you squared away. What's that? No, well, first are you signed up? Well, we got to figure that out first. So we'll get you signed up, and we do have a certified independent program. So we'll get you set up. Yeah, come and see the crew. The Johnny Cash clan, we're all in black. Come and see them at the booth. They'll get you squared away. Because we are in Colorado. We're Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs. We're all over. Yep. Yes, sir. I think we should, and I think I should be the one to go out and get it all started. We have talked about it. Yeah. Yep. That would be great because we definitely will be there. Yeah. It's not an if, it's a when. Yeah. Yeah. No. Like I said, I'll be there. When are we coming to Hawaii? So, you guys want to join us? We can. Anybody else? I know we're just. We got a few minutes. We are a privately held company, yeah, and we have no desire to be scooped up. No, we're not owned by. We're not beholden to anybody. We don't have a mothership that's we're quietly operating under ACV. We are our own person. Yeah, we're very well funded, and we plan to stay that way. We're going to be a pain in the ass for a while. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much, gang. I enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with me.